Alright guys, thought I'd just show you the repacks that I'm making up. Just out a 12mm bar, and I just cut them to length after I've measured the depth of the hole. So I cut them about 400mm short of the top, and basically the rings are just a bit of 4-inch pipe. I picked up a short length down at my local metal suppliers, and I just tack weld them onto the rebar. As I might have mentioned previously, this particular rebar is weldable, so it's fairly malleable. I did a little bit of a test here, so put a weld on there and gave it a bend, and there was no cracking at all, no boundary cracking on that at all. So I was happy with that. But yeah, I make these up 6 at a time. I do 3 holes at a time, so it gives me 3 ahead. So quite simple, nothing flash really, and it does the job nicely. Hi guys, Cam back here again. Unfortunately I've lost some of the footage, well, all of the footage of the concreting of these piles. And we've all seen concreting before. There's no great rocket science in concreting. I did all my own mixing in the barrow. I didn't have a cement mixer, so I was doing 3 piles at a time, and that was fairly comfortable. But one thing I do want to show you is that if you're doing any of this sort of pile work or any sort of concreting work, as you saw with video 1, when I did the house lift on that slab, when I was doing all the concreting on that, or when I did the slab of the shed, get yourself a concrete vibrator to get all that air out and make sure you have no cavities inside. It's a solid lump of concrete that you're working off. This particular one I bought off eBay. It was less than $99. Well, it was less than $90 actually, and that was delivered out of China. And the delivery was pretty quick. And this unit's a vibrator, it's called, 240 volt, maximum swing 0.55 millimeters. I'm assuming that's the eccentric, and it's an 800 watt unit. So you get the whole package, and it did a fantastic job. So if you're doing this sort of work, invest in one of these. It makes life so much easier than trying to sit there tamping all day long, and you won't do a job as good as what this thing will do. So we'll get on with the rest of the video. So as I said, sorry I missed out on all that footage. I don't know where it went, into cyberspace somewhere, or some gremlin's got a hold of it and taken it away. But that was probably a critical point I wanted to bring up, was you need to have a vibrator to make sure you compact that concrete properly inside those piles. Alright, thank you. I'll tell you what, I'll be glad to sit at the back of this. Right, let's go pull that one out. That's just the best word, I think. Yeah, so these are the pads being welded on. And on the other side, I've got the main pad welded on. So I've done these ones with a MIG, and these little pads here I've done with this little stick welder I bought, and it is a little ripper. I've given this thing an absolute flogging over the last week, and it just continues to produce very, very nice welds. Very happy with it. So the whole hip over there, well on the way. So the next job we're going to do with those is set them up the milling machine, and we'll start drilling some holes. So I've got another 4 of those to finish, so we'll get into those. So these line this up my eye. Not rocket science, this one. That's pretty close. Drill through with a clearance on that edge, which is a 26. Alright, so that's them all drilled. I'll go through a process now of deburring them, and then I'm going to drill another hole just in here as a breather, so I can actually make sure that I get this full of the self-leveling grout that I'm going to use underneath the slab. So I want to make sure I get all the air pockets totally out of that. So I'll spend a bit of time, get them deburred, set them up, and I'll drill the breather hole, and then we'll set up, make up a little alignment jig to weld the nuts on the underside, or onto this side here actually. So we'll do that next, and making our way through it. So getting close to being able to put these under the slab and start trying to level the thing. Okay, so right now I'm just machining a divot in the base plates that are going to sit down on top of the concrete piles, and this is fairly straightforward. Centre drill, I've got a 22mm diameter drill, the 120-degree angle. We pop into it, speed things up a little bit. So I'm going to put our 22mm diameter drill in. I would have preferred to have a stumpier one because it does get a bit of vibration. But so it does leave little vibration marks in that chamfer, which doesn't really worry me for what I'm doing here. If anything, that's just going to hold grease in those little divots, so it's going to help lubricate the stud as it's being screwed down on top of it. Normally when you're designing base plates, you'll try and make it so that the stud doesn't rotate. So you'll have a stud with a nut welded on it, with a nut underneath the base plate, and you just use a shifter on the stud underneath the base plate to lift up and down, and you might have a jam nut on top to lock the whole thing in place. Sometimes not practical like this particular one. To stop the stud from wandering, give it a location for it to work to, and that way it's going to remain in the place you want it to remain rather than just walking all over the concrete. So got a few more of these to do, and then we'll have a crack at doing the studs. Well, the new motor's working out a treat, so yeah, very happy with that. Alright, so we've set the angle previously for the top slide off the blind drill hole we did in the base plates. We're now going to machine the taper onto the all thread studs. They're going to be doing the lifting of the slab, or the power part lifting of the slab. So we'll make sure we turn it the right way, because I've done it a couple of times and rotated the machine the wrong way, which is forward, which I'm used to, and snap the tip off. So we've got to run the machine in reverse. And that's about what we come down to. So once done, I will do a setup and just do a little machine back on the collar, so that there's no way this is going to impinge. If I put the drill in a little bit further, there's a little bit of an edge on it, so I just want to make sure that clears comfortably. I'll also point out that these are high tensile steel all thread rods, as you might have seen with the type of chip that was coming off, one of those horrible screwy spidery things that gets wrapped around everything. So I've got about another dozen or so of these to do, so I'll knock those off. It's cracking up into the high 30s today. Just come home from work, and it's pretty warm in the shed, so I'm going to finish these off and go and cool down a bit. Okay, we're down to putting the last strong back in place. So I thought I might show a better explanation of how this works before I do put it into place. So we've got this plate here that sits down on top of the pile. We've got our strong back that we put in through the hole, and we manoeuvre that into place. We then screw our power screw down, until we take up the slack, and the underside of the slab is sitting on these two pads here. So as we screw down onto the pile, the pressure picks up, and the reaction is we can't go any further down on the pile. We can go further up on the slab, so it actually lifts the slab, and that's what we've done. This front end of my shed has dropped probably about 5mm, so the back end has come up, relieving the pressure on the front, allowing it to drop back down again. And got all this furniture and stuff sort of positioned in around all the holes, so I can get access to them. So that's where it's at. Alright, more soon.